This conference will now be recorded.
Hi guys, good evening. Suresh here.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening guys. Good evening one and all. Okay, so guys, in our session today, we are going to look towards the workflows. So we'll starting from today. So we have around 4 to 5 sessions down the line from today that will be continuously discussing on the workflows, business rules, some calculations, validations, all these kind of topics. So almost till next Wednesday, we'll have these connected sessions all together. Okay, so to start with, first one is the workflow objects. As at the end of the yesterday's session, as I've already mentioned, guys. So workflows in success factors employee central are also defined in the corporate data model. In the corporate data model XML, they are defined, and we call them as additional foundation objects. Additional foundation objects like workflows, event reasons, dynamic roles, all these three things, what I've highlighted here. So defined from corporate data model means obviously these are also available under the manage organization pay job structures. If you are required to create a new workflow or a new dynamic role, anything, you will go for the manage organization pay job structures. Okay. So as I already opened the single one yesterday, let me open that. So in this manage organization pay job structures, a place where we used to handle these pay ranges, pay grades, locations, and all. In a similar place, we'll also have the workflows that can be set up. So there are already a huge number of workflows that standard success factor has delivered in this system. So if I take this, yeah. So if I say take this address change as a workflow, so this is just a name, guys. This is just an address change as a name. So it doesn't mean that this is a workflow that will be triggered only for address changes in the system. So it's basically a name that you give to any workflow. Workflow is a set of approvers. So either it's a 1 level approval or 2 level, 3 level, 4 level, any number of levels of approvals you can configure. So that set of approvers whom you define, you can just give some name to that. So you can call that workflow wherever required. Either you want this approval flow to be triggered when there is really an address change in the system, or for promotion action you want this workflow, for for what do you say, salary corrections you want this workflow, or for a leave request you want this workflow. It's up to you. It's just a name that you give it as ABCD XYZ blah blah, whatever you give it takes. So the name has nothing to do that it should be linked with address portlet only mandatorily. You don't have any restriction. Here they have given with that name, you can give any name. Okay. So finally, where we call this workflow is what that matters. So how do we call and trigger that workflow? We'll see at a later point. Okay. So in a workflow, normally any platform that might be SuccessFactors or SAP or Java, .NET, any Oracle, any platform you take, normally a workflow mechanism is set of approvers. So either 1 level or 2 through 3 level, whatever approvals it will go for. So one after the other, the people will approve, or anybody in the in between can decline that request. That is the way. Okay. But in SuccessFactors Employee Central, along with that approvers who will approve or decline a workflow, we have two other set of participants. So this is the approvers, step 1, step 2, step 3, any number of levels of approvers. After that, you can have couple of other roles called contributors and CC role. Couple of other participants in the workflow called contributors and CC roles, guys. So what are these is, a contributor is a person in SuccessFactors Employee Central workflow that will have the capability to look at the entire workflow. So when this workflow initiated, okay, who initiated this, to whom it went for approval, already how many levels it has been already approved. Okay, so if it has been rejected 1 or 2 times, who rejected it, when they rejected it, why they rejected it, every history of the workflow they will have it. They can also see what is the data that came for approval, but they cannot approve or decline the workflow. They can give their comments against that workflow. A contributor is a person who will have the entire visibility of the workflow, the history of it, who already approved it, who are yet to approve it, everything they can see, and they can give their recommendations against that workflow. So whether this is an appropriate request or not, this can be approved or not, this to be rejected, or if it is to be approved with some other conditions to be checking with the employee. Manager has to check some other details with the employer, then only approve it. Kind of any suggestions this person wants to give, they can give it. So most of the time, contributors will be assigned as the HRs in the system. Most of the time, HRs we maintain as the contributors. So contributors are not authorized. I mean, contributors are not supposed to take an action of approval or declining the workflow request, but they can express their what do you say? They can express their recommendations through comments in the workflow. That is contributors. And then the last level is a CC role. CC role are the people, guys, who will actually have the notifications triggered at the end of the workflow. That is, so they are not approvers. So the workflow went for 3-level approval. The person in the CC role is the one who don't want to participate in the approval process, but he should be notified about any workflow, what has been approved or rejected. Most of the time, we keep CC role as a department heads. Head of the department can be get as a CC role, so that in a department where there are 400, 500 employees, the head of the department don't want to involve in all the approvals. If for the people of 400, 500 employees, if the department head is involving in the workflows, so off of his day will be every day spent on making these approvals itself. So to avoid that, what they do is they will exclude themselves from the approval flow, but they keep them in the CC role such that whenever there is a request raised by an employee, it goes for their manager, HR, somebody's approval. Once it is, the person in the CC role will receive a final notification saying that the address change request of Suresh has been approved. The leave request of Suresh has been rejected. Like that, that one-liner acknowledgement email is what that will be received by the people who are in the CC role. So that way you have the actual approvers, the contributors, and the CC role that can be part of a employee central workflow, guys. So approvers is something required, but contributors and CC role is optional. If you want to have somebody as a contributor, somebody as a CC role, only then you can assign. You can utilize this if required, but it's not mandatory. But for a workflow, obviously approvers are what that are required to be sent for approval. So that way, and there is no limit on the number of levels of approval, guys. Even if you want to have 10 level, 20 level approval also, you can define. There is no limit on it. So basically, in real time, maximum you would see 4 or 5 levels of approvals, not more than that. Okay, more than five levels of approval is never seen in real time. So that is a, so this is about the 3 set of participants. Who are the participants in employee central workflow? Means approvers are one, contributors and CC role are the other 2. Total 3 participants can be seen in a workflow. 3 types of participants. So we call them as workflow participants, actually, all these. And then whenever you're defining a workflow, you have these around 5-6 attributes that you are required to maintain. First is the ID and the name. So like every object, anything, say example, you create a location also, you give a location code and location name. Pay range code, pay range data. Next, pay grade code, and pay grade name. Like that for everything, the way you give it. Even for workflow also, there is an ID and a name. Okay, and some description about this. What does this workflow basically do? You can look at that. And these are important. Remind in days. Remind in days is a functionality, guys. Say if I give a number, say like remind in days as 7 days. Here, let me go for an editable mode. So remind in days, if I keep it as 7. So if there is a workflow request got triggered and it came for my approval, if I did not take an action on it up to 7 days, on the 7th day, system can send me a reminder email saying that there is a pending item in your inbox since last 7 days. Kind of. So when you want the system to send a reminder email is what this remind in days option will be useful for. Okay, so that is the remind in days. And then A very interesting feature is delegation. Is delegate supported? If you set this attribute as yes, delegation as yes, guys. Say example, there is a request of some employee that came to me for approval, but I feel I am not the right person to approve it, or I don't have the required details or required authority to approve it or whatever. If I want to send this to somebody else, I want somebody else to take care of this request, I can delegate this request to somebody. So that is what delegation means. So any workflow request that I don't want to involve in this, I want this to be taken care by somebody else, I can nominate somebody else come in the name, somebody else's name in the company, and this workflow can be routed to them. That is delegation. But delegation has one more very good feature. Say example, if there is a manager who is going on a vacation, or due to any reason, if he is not going to be part of the company next 1 week, next 10 days, 15 days, whatever, he is not going to be available, then he can nominate somebody as his delegatee. Delegatee as is a person who will receive the workflow approvals on his behalf. So whenever this person is not available, all the workflows should not stop because of his absence in the company. You can nominate somebody as your delegatee and you can leave for vacation. You can choose who is your delegatee and from which date to which date you want your workflows to be redirected to him. You can keep it. Same like the way you keep some call forwarding, right? In our mobile phones, we keep a call forwarding. Similar like that. So we can keep a delegation option. All the workflows what comes to you will be redirected to that person whom you give, so that in your absence he can take care of the approvals. So that way delegation has two functionalities: complete automatic delegation without even coming to you, every workflow will go to the target person, or else workflow comes to you selectively. Any workflow you want to send it to somebody, you can send it individually also. Both the ways this delegation functionality will be useful, gentlemen. This alternate workflow is what we'll see at a later point. Now it will be confusing you. So these two attributes are important. And when the person in the CC role, when he is getting a notification, the person in the CC role, a final notification saying that the so-and-so workflow of a so-and-so person has been approved or rejected, whatever email they get, in that, do you want to have a do you want to have a redirecting URL to the success factor system? Yes or no? So in that email, you can have a redirecting link such that clicking on that link, the person who is in the CC role level, clicking on that link, he will be redirected to this particular employee's profile once he logs into the success factor system. So do you want that or not is the point. Redirect CC users to workflow approval page or not? That is yes or no. You can, it's up to optional, we can give it. So this is the way you have this set of important attributes: remaining days delegation supported, and redirected yes or no, simple one. Alternate will not for now, and we'll discuss. Any questions still here?
Yeah, Suresh Rupa here.
Yeah, please.
I did not understand redirect CC, first of all. And secondly, this delegate part is similar to proxy. Earlier
Not
in
at
one
all.
of the session you said.
Proxy is where you're completely taking the authority on the other's login. So I can log in into somebody's account. I can access their entire data. But here, delegation is where a workflow request what has to come to you. When you are on vacation, you can redirect it to me. Only the input or the workflow items which you choose to come to your to-do list, they come to my to-do list. I'm not going to log in into your account.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And redirect CC, I did not understand, please.
So redirecting level. So already in the CC, I told you that you will receive an email, right? A one-liner email saying that the so-and-so employee's workflow has been approved or rejected. You will get one-liner notification message. Till that, are you clear?
Yes.
Yeah. In that email, if you want a hyperlink, and a hyperlink in the email, so that clicking on that link, system should take that people who are in the CC role to the workflow page, the place where the workflow has been approved for this employee. You can see the workflow approval page, so that what is the request made actually, who approved it, on which date it has been approved, or any comments that the approver made, all that they can look into that.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other queries? Okay. So now moving on to the approvers. So I told you that you can have multiple levels of approvals, 2 level, 3 level, 4 level, any number of approvers can be maintained. But who is the approver? Whom do you want to assign as the approval of a workflow? Is you can derive an approver using 5 different types. A role based approval defining, dynamic role, dynamic group, position and position relationship. 5 different types you have when you want to define an approver. So if you choose a role, the simplest way, the straightforward way, so the approver can be the employee's manager, manager's manager, that is second level manager, employee's HR, or a dotted reporting manager, that is matrix manager, custom manager, second manager, all this. So this is all the data what we basically maintain in job relationships portlet. For employee, who is the HR you maintain, who is the custom manager, who is the second manager, whatever you maintain in the job relationships portlet, as per that it will trigger. If I keep the first level approval as matrix manager, who is employee's matrix manager, it will check in the job relationships portlet. As per that it will trigger. So you guys know that we have a job relationships portlet on the people profile. Let me just show you that once again. Here, job relationships portlet, guys. So here we used to maintain employees HR, employees matrix manager, second manager, custom manager, like the additional different relationships, up to 9 different relationships we used to maintain here. These are all. So against an employee, who is custom manager maintained, who is HR manager maintained, as per that, so system will trigger it. So if I maintain first level as matrix manager, who is the employee's matrix manager, it will search and it will send to them for the first approval. That way you have all these roles from the job relationships portlet, manager, second level manager, HR, matrix manager, all these stuff. Or else you have another way called dynamic role. So here in this role based, what we see is approver is connected to employee level. Employees manager, employees HR, employees matrix manager, it's all employee related. Okay, so if I made a request, it goes to my manager. If you make a request, it goes to your manager. So here it is, the work, the approvers are different people. For every employee, his manager is the approver. So you will have a lot of approvers in the company. But when it comes to dynamic role, you will have a functionality such that if you want to define for any employee of this location, this person is the approver. For any employee of this department, this person is the approver. Kind of, if you want to define the workflows based on the foundation data, based on the foundation data, if you want to define a workflow, that is, all the employees of this particular department should go to Mr. X as an approver. All the employees of this particular location, it has to go to Mr. Y as an approver. Like that, based on these foundation data, if you want to determine an approval, organization wide, you are fixing the approvals. Okay, so that kind of things you can achieve through dynamic role as a concept. So dynamic roles, few dynamic roles will come up here. So first of all, where are they created means dynamic roles, you should first define them, then you can call them here. So where do we define a dynamic role? How do we configure this dynamic role means? So if you see this, the place where I showed you workflow is an additional foundation object, dynamic role is also one more additional foundation object. So obviously the place where we are currently working on workflows, dynamic roles can also be created there in the same screen, manage or job pay structures. That is, so let me just duplicate the screen. So the place where in the manage organization pay job structures, you are able to see the workflows, guys. Here this workflow, just above the workflow, you also have a dynamic role as one more object that you can define. So I'll open that in a separate screen. Choosing dynamic role, there are some standard success factors pre-delivered list of dynamic roles actually. So let me just select something from these. Say there is something called finance controller. So here they have defined that for the legal entity of Best Run USA, legal entity. All these are foundation objects: jobs, departments, divisions, locations, legal entity, business unit, everything, pay range, pay grade. These are all foundation objects. For all the employees of US legal entity, Mr. William is maintained as the approver constantly. Like that, for India business, best run India, some other approver, I can maintain it. At a legal entity level completely, if you want to say particularly this approver, you can maintain. Or else, in this legal entity of US, Western USA, I'm in editable mode now. So for US, that two employees of particularly say location of Atlanta. US legal entity, Atlanta location employees, Mr. William is the approver maintained. Whereas again for the same legal entity, same US legal entity, but location as say Chicago this time. For the location of Chicago, I want somebody else as a approver. So there Mr. William is the approver. Here I want to make Mr. Alex as a approver. I can just type and search their names. Like this, based on the foundation data, if you want to define the approvers, you can. So you define all your possible combinations and save this, and whatever is the name that you have given for this, it's up to you whatever name you want to give it. So whatever name you have given it, all that will come up here in the workflow object level. If you say the approver should be based on a dynamic role, all your dynamic roles will come up here in the list. So in that list, that finance controller thing, what you are seeing there will also appear here. Somewhere over here, finance controller. Here, I selected. Now, when this workflow got triggered, when this workflow object got triggered, it will go for this dynamic role. So now it will check in this dynamic role how many combinations are there. It will check. So this employee falls under which combination? He belongs to US business with Atlanta location. Then first this William is the approver. Okay. Or else if this employee is under Chicago location, under the same legal entity with the Chicago location, then Mr. Alex is the approver. Like that, system will determine who is the approver, guys. So that is where you have dynamic role-based approvals, which is defined completely in the organization-wide setup what you have done. For this location employees, for this department employees, this legal entity employees, this pay grade employees, whatever combination level you want to define, you can define it. Pay grade level, pay range level, different things. All the objects are given here. Divisions, departments, business units, all this. So based on that, we can. So that is what the concept of dynamic role mean. Okay. And then dynamic group, a very interesting concept. Dynamic group means, guys, normally in a real time, we'll get a common requirement that I need an approval from IT department, an approval from finance department, or from payroll department, like that you have it. It's not a specific person. It's not specifically Mr. Rajesh, Mr. Suresh. It's not a particular person from this department. In finance department, there are 3 or 4 people who are authorized for such approval. Any one of them approve, it is okay. Similarly, from IT department, there are 2 or 3 people. Any one of them approves, it is okay. In such cases, I can group them. I can call it as a dynamic group. I can create a group of such approvers. IT, finance approvers. Like that, I can create groups. Once I create a group of those 3-4 people and I call that group here, so I choose a dynamic group, and here there are some different groups, a payroll as a group. So from the payroll team, I can keep 3 or 4 people. Any one of them approved is enough. So I'll call that group. Such that in that group, if there are 4 people, all 4 of them will be receiving that workflow item in their to-do list. All 4 of them will be receiving the email notification saying that there is something pending for your approval. Among that 4, if any one of them approve, it is enough. I'm not specifically sending this workflow request to one of them. All 4 will receive. Whoever takes the action, that is enough. It will go to the next level approval. Out of 4 people, if I approved it, it will automatically be disappearing from the other 3 people inbox also, because it has been closed. Some of them has to take action. One person has taken action. That's it. So that is how it functions, the dynamic group. Most regularly used option in the real time. Dynamic groups can be created in a place called as a very important certification question actually. Where do you create the dynamic groups is manage workflow groups. Repetitive certification question. Manage workflow groups is a place where do we create the dynamic groups. Make a note of it, guys. Dynamic groups created in manage workflow groups. The way how you create a groups is simple. You guys are already known how do you create a permission groups, role based permission groups. The way you create, just go for create new group, give a name of your group, whatever group you want, say IT group, something you created, and here in the category you guys know that we have an option to filter the people based on their location, department, division, their jobs, like the different parameters. But you should not use these parameters this time. If you use department, with one department there might be hundreds of employees in one department, there might be hundreds of employees in one location, like that thing. So but we need approvers are like only 3 people, 4 people, max 5 people. Approvers means you can't send it to bunch of people, 30, 40, 100. You can't send it. 3 or 4 people who are authorized to do that activity. In that case you can go to the extreme bottom and you have this user as an option. User, if you choose user, guys, you can start typing the set of approvers. So in IT department you have a person called elect, or else add one more person, you have somebody called as Sydney Battle. Like this, how many people you want to add them. That's it. Individually you are adding the people. So now this group contains 2 people, and if you call this group in the workflow, both of these people will be notified about that workflow. If any one of them approve, it is enough. Like, but you don't have any limit on it how many people to be added. But as a best practice, it's not it is not recommended to go beyond 4 or 5 approvers. Okay, that is the way you can maintain the bunch of approvers. And finish, that group will be created here. So this group comes up here in the drop down as IT group. I just have to refresh the screen now because I just now created. If I refresh this in the drop down, that ID group new group comes in. So that way, dynamic group based approval. How many people are in the group? Everyone will be notified. In all 4 of their inboxes, that particular workflow item will be there. If any one of them clicks on approve, that's enough. Okay, that automatically goes to the second level approval. That is there. Whoever takes the decision first, that is the main decision. And next you have position based workflow. What is position based? This is also a straightforward option. Here in the success factor system, in the further sessions we'll see the position management topic. So how many positions we created in the system, right from CEO, next below CEO you have presidents, vice presidents, directors, associate directors, managers, HRs, analysts. Every position, each and every position of this company will be listed here, guys. There is no exclusion. Every position, all the positions will be alphabetically sorted, and every position will be coming up here. Now for this workflow, if you want to say a particular position is responsible, production director as a position is responsible, whoever is in that position, that person has to approve it. So we want to give this approval authority to a person who is at a production director level. I give that position. Today whoever is serving that position, he'll be the approver. The person who is in that position, if he is leaving the position and if you are hiring somebody else, okay, he resigned and there is a new employee joined in the same position, automatically that new person will be the approver. You need not go and do any manual maintenance. Automatically whoever is currently serving in that position, they will be nominated as the first level approver. That way. Okay, so we have position based, where all the positions what we create in the position management, all that list comes up. You can just select the required position, system will automatically assign that person as the approver. Who is now allocated in that position, he will be determined as the approver automatically. A straightforward way. So these 4 are the regularly used options, guys. Role, dynamic group, and position based. Position relationship based is one confusing option that SF has given. where that is not so successful in the market. Position level, you have position, parent position, parent position, like this, different options. Position relationship based approval means you will have a position based approval, that is parent position. If I give it for my position, what is the parent reporting position? So I'm in a position of a director. For my position, senior director is a position. Okay, so in that senior director position, who is the approver? It will go to them. If I say parent position, my positions, what is the reporting position? To that reporting position, what is the next level reporting? In that position, who is serving? It goes in that way. There are chances of some inconsistencies between the employee hierarchy and position hierarchy actually. That is the best example. I'm not sure if I told you guys this example previously. You take the scenario of secretary of a CEO. If there is a secretary working for a CEO, secretary will be directly reporting to CEO. When it comes to hardline reporting, this secretary is directly reporting to the CEO. Okay, but when it comes to position structure, this position hierarchy, if you see, normally a person who is appointed as a secretary of a CEO, they will be normally given maximum a decision level of a designation level of associate manager, assistant managers, general manager, that kind of a designation level. What their job title can be secretary of a CEO. Okay, so immediate reporting level, if you see, she is immediately here, the secretary who is he or she will be immediately in the next line of CEO. But position structure level, if you see, of below CEO, there will be presidents, vice presidents, directors, associate directors, and then somewhere down the line senior managers, then the associate managers, all this. So she might be 6 or 7 levels down the line with respect to position structure. Immediate reporting hierarchy level, she might be directly reporting to the CEO. So there are chances where the normal employee hierarchy and the position structure hierarchy will differ also, guys. So in that cases, this position based hierarchy will create inconsistencies in the workflow as expected. So there are chances, I mean, there are situations where it had created issues in the real time. So that is not so successful in the market. In the last option, we use these 4 options: role, dynamic group, position. These options are regularly used. So using any of these options, you can determine an approver in SuccessFactors Employee Central workflows. First level can be role based, second level can be dynamic group based, third level can be dynamic role based, fourth one position based. It's up to you. You can call one, each level will have a different derivation method. It's up to you. You can configure. Okay, any questions here?
Hi Suresh, this is Naveen.
Yeah, Naveen, please.
Yeah, so Suresh, so like role and position are it almost the same. You know, you selected manager for role and for position, we can select director kind of things, right? So are
Role
they
level
almost
is
same?
manager, position level.
We selected director, right?
Yeah, okay.
So are almost, I mean, can both be called the same? You know, I think it's almost the same, right? Role and position.
How can that be? Role is, here I chose manager means employee's manager. If I applied some request, example, I applied a leave. If the manager, if the first level approval, I say manager, it goes to my manager. But when you say position based, I given, let's say example, that some director, some production director or some account executive, whatever position, account executive need not be my manager, right? These two are different.
Okay, yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Any others?
There can be instances where the level of workflow may vary. I mean, let's say for all the departments, the leave approver can be the departmental head. But in case of secretary who is reporting to CEO, the reporting manager can be different. So if there are such type of instances, this is a particular workflow which is tagged to a specific process, let's say leave approval. So if there are mm, multiple variations,
Multiple variations in the sense, I not get you. Can you come again, please?
I mean, and let's say for all the employees into the org unit, the head of the org unit is the leave approver. But
Okay.
for the secretary, the approver may be either the HR department or some other head of some other department. Though the secretary might be reporting to the CEO, but the leave approver may be from a different department or from the HR department.
Okay, got it. So for one particular cases and all, it's not recommended to have a different path of approval mechanism. Okay, that is what we definitely recommend the customers not to go with one particular for this position. You say today for this position you have an exceptional different flow of workflow. Tomorrow you come up with a different requirement. So that makes your system more inconsistent. Okay, so instead of that, we recommend in a consulting way to go with a constant process. Even it is secretary of a CEO, let it go to the secretaries of CEO's department head. To in which department she is working, let it go to her. Let it go to that particular person. We suggest that. But if still the management is still very much rigid in that requirement, they are saying only when this secretary applies, we want this workflow to be triggered to a different person, different approval process. Then we will have that conditions checked in the business rules. Okay, we will write, that is the next topic we start with tomorrow, that is business rules as a concept. The person who is approving, we'll set that position of the secretary. So what is the secretary's position, we'll hard code in the business rule. If the person who is applying belongs to this position, then you call this workflow. Else for others, call a different workflow. So I can create different workflows. So this is one workflow object, workflow one. I create one workflow two things. In this, it is going for these two levels. In that, it goes for some other levels. Like that, I can create two workflow objects, and based on the workflow, based on the business rule conditions, I can call it different workflows. Okay.
Okay. And can the approver role and CC role be same? Let's
Yeah,
say the lead.
definitely. No problem.
Okay.
It can be definitely. Yeah. So here also you have role manager, all this. Here in the CC role also you'll have this role manager, all that. You can definitely have. Okay, but it's unnecessary, it's not required, because whenever the workflow has been approved finally, people who have all participated in the workflow, everybody will be notified saying this workflow has been completed, guys. Say there are 4 level of approval. I approved it today, tomorrow second person approved, after 2 days third person approved, like that. It took 1 week to complete all the 4 level approval. After 1 week, if the 4th person approved, then I will also, as the first approval, I will also receive this notification by default saying that this work, the so and so employee's workflow has been completely approved. Okay, so CC role we give on top of it. Additionally, apart from the people who are participated in the workflow, if you want somebody else to be notified, that additional people only we involve in the CC role. Okay, that is the way. And then, so that is how you maintain, you can
Yeah,
set up a,
I have a question, Suresh.
yeah, Rupa, please.
Yeah, this dynamic group, when you showed us, you had selected a person, Alex or someone like that. So instead
Yeah,
of user, can we have a position like manager or something like that?
yeah. So position is something that will not by default come up here. Position is a filter that will by default not come up here in the permission groups. If you see this, so we have some workaround process to design that. SF will not give position in the permission groups actually. Okay, to add the
So
position also.
dynamic group always we have to use user.
No, here if you are required to create a group dynamic group level, how do you set up the users is a point. So if you say there are people in my company under one particular department, there are only 4 people in the department, IT department, I only have 4 people, I can call a department directly as IT. Okay. It's not mandatory that I have to go for user. It is because most of the time we go for user, because when you go for a department location based filters, you have this issue where more people will come in that. Okay, per one department, for one location, for one job category, you will have hundreds and hundreds of people. So because of that, we go for this user based. But that's a good thought process. Position based also can be used, but SF by default doesn't give this position as a filter here. So position, to have position also as one of the filter here, we have another process, workaround process I can show you in the further sessions. So whichever fields are not available as standard filter categories here, you can add the additional parameters. So in one of the session going further, please remind me again. I'll definitely show you how to get a position also in this list.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other queries, gentlemen? Okay then. So approvers you are able to define through 5 different types: role, dynamic group, all this. When it comes to contributors, if you are required to call a contributor, again all the 5 different types are available, guys. Even at a contributor level, all the 5 different types: role, dynamic group, position relationship are available. Along with that, one more 6th type called person is also available. Person is a type where you can directly hard code the name of a person. Whomever you want to call, directly type the name. Alex is a person whom you want to maintain as a contributor. Directly you selected that person. That way, a direct assignment of an employee name is also given. A 6th type, one more 6th type called person. Like that. And you can also have multiple contributors also. There is no limit that only one contributor to be there. 2-3 different contributors also you can add. Like Alex. That is a person-based, direct person-based relationship. Next, CC role. CC role level, if you are required to define the set of CC role people, again, the 5 types through which you are defining the approvers, all 5 are available. And the 6th type person, what you used in the contributor, that is also available. And one more 7th type additionally, external email is given. External email is a type where if you want to send out that final CC notification to people who are even out of the company, if you want to notify also, you can use that, guys. You can just type some custom email ID and you can have that workflow triggered to the people who are out of SF system also. Okay, so that additional 6th, 7th type as external email is also given. So for approvers, you will have 5. For contributor, one more 6th one as person, and for CC role, one more 7th one called external email. All are available. The reason why would we get a requirement of notifying somebody out of the SF system is, say example, the best common requirement, the common functionality we saw is, so whenever a company has a dependents portlet, we have a dependents portlet where I can add my dependents. So I joined in this company 2 years back, where when I joined, my marital status is single. Now I'm married. I went on a vacation and I came back now. So I want to add my spouse details in the dependent details. So when I add the spouse details, it went for my manager's HR approval. Once it is approved, I want my company's insurance provider to be notified about this dependent addition. My company's insurance provider has to take care of some inclusion of my spouse also into the insurance plan, that the insurance program that the company gives me, all that. You want to notify somebody out of the company also. Okay, then for such cases, CC role level external people can be notified, guys. Okay, so that is the way you have this external email as one of the options that will be used. So these are the different types of
Suresh,
yeah, please, Roshni.
yeah, I have just question. I'm not getting the concept of contributor. Can you please tell me again?
Contributor is just a person who will not have the right to approve the workflow. They will see the workflow. Say example, you applied a leave. Okay, you applied a leave for 30 days with some reason. I'm your manager. It came to me. So I'm already ready to either approve or decline. I have some decision with me. But in between, if HR wants to intervene, saying that HR doesn't have the authority to approve or decline this request, but if HR wants to give me some suggestions, okay, Mr. Suresh, before you approve, please take some documentation from the employee. The reason why she's going on a study leave, she's going on a maternity leave, whatever. Take some documentation, supporting documents, or check these details with her before you approve. Kind of any suggestions this approver, this contributor wants to give me, they can write that comments in the workflow. Whatever comments they make against the workflow, the approvers can see that comments. According to the suggestions that they give through those comments, the approvers can decide whether to approve or decline, or check for some other details with the person requester. All that can be done. So they don't have the right to decline or request, decline the request or accept the request, but they can have the right to see all the details of the workflow and even make some comments against the workflow. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other queries, guys? That is basically the behavior. What does approvers do? What does contributors do? What does CC role do? And how do you determine them? All these different ways. Now, you have a lot of attributes against each and every approver level. What are these? Each and every attribute has a different interesting meaning, guys. That is, say you say approver employees, the employees manager is the approver. Fine. Now, context level, you have source and target. This normally has its purpose, very rare cases actually. What does this mean is, say if employees, if there is a employee's promotion request, manager is the approver. Employee's designation got changed, it has to be approved by the manager. Employees, the employees applied a leave, it has to go for manager approval. Employee changed his address, employee made an address change, it has to go for manager approval. For all that cases, it is okay. Now, employee's manager itself changed. My manager changed, okay, but for that data change also I kept manager as the approval again. In that case, who should approve it? So I am your manager, say example, there is a person called Naresh. For that, Suresh is the manager. If when Suresh has been changed, if I am the manager, I got changed again, you say manager is the approval, who should get it? So the old manager or the new manager? Source is the existing old manager, he has to approve that, or target manager, new manager under whom you are going to place him now, he has to approve it. Who has to approve it? Source or target? The existing manager or the target manager? 99% we will not configure in such a way. For whenever manager is changing, it has to again go for manager approval. We don't maximum configure it. But if you get such a situation, then how should system go? So the existing manager has to approve or the new target manager has to approve. That is the context as a requirement SF has given. Okay, which will very rare cases it happens, guys. And say example, this workflow is getting triggered for address change. Then here you choose it as source or target, doesn't make any difference. So address change means when you are in the old address or tomorrow you are changing to a new address, in the source record level or target record level. Source is your old address, target is a new address. Whatever address you are in, your manager is the same. So here you choose source or target, that doesn't make any difference. But basically makes a difference when you have the person who is the approver itself is the data change. If manager is the approver and actually the why this workflow got triggered is because of the manager change, then you will have a meaning for this. The target is the new manager has to approve or the existing manager has to approve. You will have that purpose. Okay, and then edit transaction. So this is also one
Wait 1
interesting.
minute. I have a doubt over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just give example of address change. So normally for address change also there will be workflow.
Yeah, as if address change portlet has a workflow. Whenever I update my address, I can send it for HR approval, manager's approval, kind of. Because address details are important. If employee suddenly absconds, we need to we have to know his address details, right? So address details will be captured with the workflow.
Okay, so this target or source, that depends on what type of workflow we are building, right? And not on the approval. How is it
Yeah.
decided?
Data, what data got changed? Source level, what is the data? Target level, what is the data? Got it?
Not
So
clear. No.
And let's say this is a leave approver. So how does source and target be identified?
there is no difference for that, right? Source or target, your manager is the same. When you before applying a leave or after applying a leave, your manager did not change. So either you choose source or you choose target, it doesn't make any difference. It
No,
goes to
but
the same
let's
person.
say manager has been transferred. Let's say I applied a leave yesterday and today manager has been transferred. So how does this source and target?
At a point of time when the workflow got triggered, who is the approver? It goes to him. Today you applied your leave request. I am your approver today. I am your manager today. It came to me. It is in my inbox. Tomorrow, even if your manager changes from me to somebody else also, that work still with my in my inbox only. Either I have to take a call to, now I'm not the person, I have to delegate it to somebody. We have delegated an option. Now this lady Poonam is not under me. She has been transferred to another manager. Let me delegate this workflow to that new manager. He will take a decision whether to approve or not. That way it goes. That has nothing to do with the source or target. Okay, so source or target, you need not confuse, guys. It will work in only one condition, where the whomever you called as the approver, the reason why this workflow got triggered is the same data change. You are saying a manager is the approver. This workflow got triggered because of a manager change. Then context will have a this context field will have a purpose. For any other workflow, you choose source or target. It doesn't make any difference. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then edit transaction. So normally any workflow, it might be SAP, again Java, .NET, Oracle, anything. Approval means a request comes to me. If I'm okay, I'll approve it, or else I reject it. That should all be the case. But in SF, they have given even a permission to edit the data what came to you. There is a workflow that came to you. If you want to correct some data in it, when you are making some approval, if you want to make some corrections in the data that came to you, then you can use this edit options as well. That is, say example, employee made a address change. It is configured with a 4-level approval. Example, just a very general example. If employee updated his address, it is going for a 4-level approval. First level approver approved it. Second level approver approved it. It came to third level person. The third level person has identified that for the area what employee mentioned and the pin code what he has mentioned doesn't match. For that area, that is not the pin code. So he don't want to reject it. He want to approve it by making that correction. As a manager, I know that area's pin code is not this correct. I want to update that pin code and I want to approve that request. So if you want to give the edit access on the data what came for your approval, that is an edit functionality also SF has given. No edit at all is a normal workflow. It came for you, you want to approve or reject. That is no edit functionality. If you want to give edit, there are again two options. Edit with root change, edit without root change. With root change and without root change means, if I give with root change, once the third level person is making some change on the workflow and he's approving it, it again goes for the first level approver. I as a third level person made some change on the workflow and I clicked on approve button, but it again triggers to the first level person. The workflow has been changed from third to fourth, it has to go, but it has been changed from 3 to 1 again. It says that the data what first level and second level people has approved is not this. You made a change again. So for the change what you have done at a third level, again this first level, second level people have to again approve it. It again comes back to 1, 2, and 3, 4 level in a sequence. That is the one. If you say edit without root change, system will not change the flow. 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 is the linear approach. So in the third level person, even if he made a change and he approved, it just goes for the fourth level. It doesn't again send back to the first level. So edit with root change means it will again send back to the first level. Edit without root change means it will go without any coming back. It will after third level, what is the next level, fourth or whatever further levels, it will take it in the linear way. So that is edit with root change and edit without root change, no edit at all. These are commonly used. The last option here is edit attachments only. So what does this attachment edit mean? Is that in the workflow, I don't get the access to touch any of the data fields, but during the requesting process, if employee has attached some certificates or some documents, I will have the authority to download that attachments, delete that attachments, or add additional attachments. Only attachment section, if you want to give me an access to add and remove any attachments during the workflow process, this is the last one, which will never be used. If you give edit access, at least on the data level we give it, not only on attachments. No customer will ask us like this. So these are the options. Okay, so this is edit transaction as a behavior. I'll just take these couple of other attributes also. No approver behavior. Now this is a common requirement. Say example, I said the approver is a particular position. Say let me just select randomly some position. So there is account executive as a position as the approver. Whoever is currently occupied in this position, he is the approver. that is okay. But currently if this position is vacant, there is nobody in that position, that person resigned and there is no new person hired in this position yet, it is vacant, then the system does not approver. So when there is no approver, what should be the behavior? Should the system skip that step of the workflow and directly go to the second step, or the workflow should stop there? Stop the workflow. So it will not go for the second level, it will stop as in a state called no approver found, it will just stop there. So all the workflows which are halted like this, about all these which are stopped here, there is one separate tool which administrators can use called manage workflow request, guys. Manage workflow request as a separate tool for administrators, it will be there. There they can filter all the workflows which are in a stopped state, and for those workflows where system is not able to determine an approver, they can assign some particular approver manually. They can redirect to somebody else and get that back in action again. So like that, either you are okay with skipping that and go for the next level, or stop that workflow, you can choose it. Okay, that is no approver behavior. And where is that separate tool of manage workflow requests, how that look like and all, I'll show in the further sessions. As of now, this is the one. And next, say whenever I say approver as say manager, first point what comes to our mind is employees manager. Approver as manager means employees manager is what I think. Whereas you can also have another option called here relationship to approver level is that employees manager or initiators manager. That is, say example, there is a change on my data made. Okay, my my address change has happened. Either I made my address change or my HR made my change. So I did not have access to the system. My HR updated it in my record. Okay, in that case, it should go for employees manager approval or initiators manager. That is, if HR made a change, HR's manager has to approve that request. That is the way. You have two things: employee manager or initiators manager. Who initiated it? Either HR initiated it, or my manager initiated it, that change, or my HOD initiated that change in the system. Whoever edited my record, their manager has to approve. So every time manager means it need not be employee manager only. Initiators manager also is an option that SF has given that way. So on my behalf, if anybody else made that change in the data, then their manager has to approve that data. That is initiators manager. So these are all the different attributes that you have against every approver step level, guys. Okay. Oh, I guess I have one more. Permissions. Okay, I'll discuss in the next level. This will confuse you anyways till here. So the next session we'll again continue with this one more attribute. This last one is not required here. Only respect permission is one more that we are required to look at. So we'll discuss this. We'll recap the attributes, contributors, everything once again tomorrow, and discuss about this respect permission and look into, once the workflow is set up, how do you trigger that workflow? So you just created some set of 3-level, 4-level approvers and you click on save button here, that is done. So where should this workflow be utilized? When address change is made, you want to utilize this workflow. When there is a promotion, when there is a leave request, where do you want to call this workflow? That is what we use the concept of business rules and we trigger this workflow. Okay, so that part is what the interesting topic of business rule we look in the tomorrow session. Okay, any queries here, gentlemen?
Yeah, Suresh, I have one doubt.
Yeah, Roshni, please.
Yeah, so in the option edit transaction, as you told, if they choose edit with the root change, so it will
Okay.
be sent to the previous person, right?
First
He will
level, not
be
previous. It will again go back to the first level approval, not previous, first level.
okay. So it will be resent to the second level, or how? I'm not getting this.
First level, I'm telling you. Why second level is coming into context again? In a 4-level approval, third person made a change, or fourth person made a change, or 6th level person made a change. Whoever made a change in between the workflow process, it will again come back to the first level approval. Got it? There is a 4-level approval.
Okay.
Third level approver made a change. So you are the first approver, I am the second approver, and a lady called Rupa is a third level approver. You approved it, I approved it. First level, second level. Third level, it went to Rupa. Rupa made a change, it goes back to you again. Third level approver made a change, it again comes back to you as a first approver, because the data what you approved is not that is going to be finalized now. In between somebody made a change, so that change should again be approved by you. That is what the edit with root change is. You are giving edit option, but again you are also saying the workflow has to change back to the first level approval. Edit with root change will again bring back to the first level approval. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So it will be if I made changes, just take the example as third person. So it will be resent to again Rupa, I mean, as she the third person. How?
Yeah, so whatever, that's a good question actually. So third level person made a change. If now whatever change they made, it again came to the first level person. They approved it without any changes. Second level person, he also approved without any changes. Now it will skip Rupa and directly send to the fourth level. Because Rupa is the one who initiated this change now. It need not again go for Rupa's approval. It will directly go for the fourth level, skipping Rupa. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I got it now.
Excellent. Nice guys. Today it's after week 10 days. Today I felt very well. I got a very good set of questions. This is what I expect, guys. Okay, so if you have any doubt, ask that question and get it clarified. It makes interesting or interactive for other participants also. So your question might trigger a different thought in others' mind as well. So that's an advantage when people like 10 people are connecting and learning these things. Okay, great guys. Any other queries? Fine then. So let's again connect back tomorrow. I'll recap this and we'll look at the triggering of this workflow using business rules. Thank you one and all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys.